Good morning, everyone. This is another video on our proposed debate that somebody could debate us on the issue of whether Paul's claim on the road to Damascus was a violation of Jesus's prophecy, Matthew 24, on the Son of Man prophecy. So remember, Jesus said that when I've ascended, when I return, and you're waiting for the second coming, if anyone says they met me in a private place or a wilderness road, don't believe them that they met me. It can't be me because I won't return until every eye sees me. So Jesus is depicting a universal event when the Son of Man does return, but he cannot show up in a private place or wilderness road. And he specifically commands all of us, do not believe they met me. That's what he says. So now somebody asked me, well, wait a minute. Didn't he have revelations from Jesus coming down? And the answer is, you might think so if you just look at the red letters, but don't realize it's an angel speaking, all in the beginning and all at the end. And only Jesus appears physically in heaven in the middle, where Jesus is in heaven and raptures John up into heaven. So that's the explanation, real succinctly. I just want to show you something. If you see there to the right on this frame, that is a picture, a painting in classical Renaissance art, showing you the angel speaking to John. So the people who lived in the Renaissance didn't see these red letters and weren't misled, so they knew there was an angel, and they knew it was the beginning at the end. At the end, this article is talking about the angel explains to John what he is to do with his revelation, Revelation 22, verses 6 to 11. So the same angel who was speaking to him in the beginning of the book of Revelation speaks to him at the end. But we have a lot of interesting things to talk about. I just want to show you, someone asked about this and what I replied, and I'm going to show you the evidence if you are somebody who wants to oppose these type of or propose these type of issues. This is actually isn't a refutation of anything about the proof that is clear as a day is that Paul violates the Son of Man prophecy. This would only invalidate the book of Revelation. It wouldn't validate Paul. And so Paul has to stand himself, and book of Revelation has to stand itself. But so it's so interesting that the book of Revelation stands up to the Son of Man prophecy by virtue of the fact that Jesus restricts himself. He doesn't come down. He doesn't speak through. He speaks through an angel, but he doesn't speak himself directly with John. He doesn't appear to him. There's no physical appearance, and Paul is very clear that Jesus appeared to him, and Paul was born out of time as one seeing the resurrected body of Jesus Christ. All right, let's go on. All right, so here's the question from Origami Pianist an hour ago, actually. I'm doing this right after I read it. Curious to your thoughts on John being encountered by Jesus in Revelation. Is this the same issue we see with Paul in encountering Jesus, but Jesus said he won't reveal himself to anyone in private or in the wilderness? And when he does come, every eye will see. Love the channel. Thanks. And this was a comment on Was Paul an Herodian Infiltrator Part 1, review of Operation Messiah. And I responded, Hi, Origami Pianist. In Revelation, Jesus does not appear on earth, but instead speaks through an angel at the very beginning, then takes and raptures John into heaven, where Jesus is seated on the right hand of the Father. And then after John is returned to earth, Jesus speaks again through the same angel. Interestingly, a recent author tried to debunk Revelation because unlike Jesus, the book of Revelation, unlike Jesus, able to come down from heaven to speak with Paul, the Jesus in the book of Revelation stayed in heaven and spoke through an angel in the opening and end of the book of Revelation. So this author, his name is Harding, and I'm going to play you the clip where I did this review of his claim that this proves that Paul, if it was really the book of Revelation was really from Jesus, he would have appeared to John physically on earth. Why would he stay in heaven the whole time? He thinks he's helping himself, but he's destroying Paul's validity in the same token. And then I write this, and I'm going to show you the video in a minute. I did a whole video on this to show how Paulinists concede that the book of Revelation does not involve an appearance of Jesus on earth. I did a video on that entitled Harding's Argument Against Revelation's Validity Backfires. He unravels Paul's validity on Matthew 24. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. I'll play that in a second. I also, many years earlier, did an article on this distinction, and I'll show you guys that. And I'll read it to you, actually, entitled The Angel, the Book of Revelation. Thanks for asking, Doug. So this is the article. I'll get back to you. It's not a very long article, so I can read it to you, and we'll get to that in a second. But let me show you the best evidence always to prove a point is if the people who have the motivation, they're clearly pro-Paul, and they actually put their foot in their mouth. And this guy Harding says, see, in the book of Revelation, Jesus is talking through an angel on earth. Why would he do that? He shouldn't do that. If he came down and he talked to Paul physically and appeared to him, why couldn't he do that with John the apostle? So therefore, the book of Revelation must be false because it doesn't follow the same pattern as Paul. He doesn't realize that that's what validates the book of Revelation because it perfectly matches what Jesus said about the Son of Man prophecy. Well, what happened with Paul perfectly violates it. It's so much, it's so clear and obvious. God is so protective of us, but he's testing us at the same time. We have to study and look carefully at things. So let's take a look. I'm going to play for you my video clip debunking Harding. Hey everyone, we're going to delve into a book called The Apocalypse Deception. The book of Revelation is not what it claims to be, 2017 by Fred Harding. I'm going to debunk his claim that I read in the very first page. It must be his number one argument. You always put your first argument, one of your strongest arguments always has to be your first argument. Anyway, Harding claims that the book of Revelation cannot be from the true Jesus because Jesus could have come to earth like he did with Paul rather than speak through angels on earth, which is how he operated on earth. He was in heaven, though, and that's part of the middle part of Revelation. But he's faulting the fact that why would Jesus have to use angels on earth instead of come down as he did for Paul? And the subtitle here is Harding's Acknowledgement Unwittingly Unravels Paul's Validity. And that's why? Because it violates Matthew 24, verse 5, that Paul even had that experience, and that would have invalidated the Jesus of Revelation. But the Jesus of Revelation knew what he said in Matthew 24, and he said, I'm not coming back in any wilderness place. Once I've ascended, that's it. And if anybody says they saw me in a wilderness place or whatever, unless every eye sees me on earth, you know it's not me. Do not believe them. So the irony is the very thing that Harding thought proved that the Jesus of Revelation could not be the true Jesus is the very thing that actually invalidates Paul, because the true Jesus knew in Revelation he's going to have to stay in heaven till the time is ready, and it's not ready yet. He never is actually physically outside of heaven. So when you see him, he is sitting on his throne on the right side of the Father. So anyway, let's go into the letter I received about this and how I answered it. Jess wrote me on July 30, 2023. One of the last hurdles we have faced was the book of Revelation. After reading The Apocalypse Deception by Fred Harding, and there's the title, by the way, to the right, we came to the conclusion that Revelation is false and was not written by who people think. The book is extremely well referenced. This was convincing proof that the book of Revelation was false. I responded. And so I'm going to explain to him, I'm going to debunk the book. And I'm just reading the first argument, and you'll see what happens. I purchased Harding's book. Incidentally, it's only $4.99 on Kindle. So it's for those of you who want to read and look at it as well. That's the cost. The first argument that Revelation cannot be from God or Jesus shows that Harding does not know what Jesus said in Matthew 24, verses 5, 17 to 24. There, Jesus answered the apostles' question on what would be the sign of his return, that is, after the ascension, it turns out. Jesus answered first and foremost that the apostles should not believe anyone coming in a wilderness place or a private room who says, I am Jesus, meaning coming in his name. Instead, the only sign Jesus returned is when every eye sees him from all points, east and west. And we know it means all points because it's a plural of the word east and the plural of the word wests. This warning of Jesus automatically disqualifies Paul's Jesus. I'm still writing Jess. Disqualifies Paul's Jesus, who post-ascension supposedly appears in a wilderness and private place where a light is seen by a couple of men besides Paul, and they hear a voice, but it is not a universal event. So Paul's Jesus is invalidated by Matthew 24. Ironically, Harding uses Paul's experience post-ascension on the road to Damascus to ask why Jesus in Revelation, if truly Jesus, would stay in heaven rather than come down to earth, and instead talked entirely through an angel in chapter 1 on earth and again in chapter 2 of Revelation. Harding writes at page 6. What is odd about the apocalypse is that we find Jesus speaking to the author in visions through an angel who has no name. Why would Jesus require an angelic mediator to speak on his behalf? Something is amiss. This is because Jesus has always appeared in person to convey any message he himself has given that needed to be communicated. just as the Apostle Paul relates in his letter to the Corinthians. So you see what he means by appeared in person in a second, as Paul tells the story. Here's what Paul says in it's 1 Corinthians 15, verses 3 to 8, as he cites inside this at the end of this quote. So let's start reading. For what I, Paul, received, I, Paul, passed on to you, the Corinthians, as of first importance, that Christ, and there's the death and burial, was raised on the third day according to the scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas and then to the 12. After that, he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers and sisters. Then he appeared to James and to all the apostles. And last of all, he appeared to me also as to one abnormally born. And this was the argument. This is where Harding's argument stops. So he's saying, see, Jesus could appear to Paul on the road to Damascus. Why couldn't he appear to Apostle John on earth instead of having to be have the angel talk to him, convey Jesus' words on earth? Why was he doing that? Why, and why did he have to be raptured up into heaven to see Jesus? And why did he have to come back down and talk to the angel again on earth? What's going on here? Why is he refusing to come down to earth? And this guy Harding never puts two and two together. And that, to me, ladies and gentlemen, is proof positive that when people unwittingly destroy Paul, that what I'm saying to you is true. He doesn't see it. He's blind as a bat. This guy, nice guy, I'm sure, Fred Harding, but he's blind as a bat because he doesn't put two and two together. What could explain why Jesus is using angels on earth, stays in heaven the entire time of the book of Revelation? Could it just be the following passages? Now, let me just show you which is the passages which are while Jesus is pre-ascension. Let me tell you, orange is pre-ascension, and post-ascension is where it appears to Paul. That should have made Harding have ding, 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 the bells go off. Hey, of course, how did I miss that? Oh, I can't use this argument because Jesus obviously would have to stay in heaven because he said, I'm restricted from coming back before the appointed time, which, by the way, read Acts chapter 3. Peter knew of this restriction, and he even tells the people there he has to stay in heaven until the appointed time when he's supposed to return. So there was a very clear expectation that it was a singular event. There was going to be no intermediate visits on earth at all. But I digress. Anyway, here's Matthew 24 that Harding did not put two and two together. Now, let's read it again. Verse 3, as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, this is a short time before he's going to go through his the trial and tribulation of being arrested and everything. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen, the temple falling? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? So they're asking him multiple questions. Sign of your coming is, let me just show you the three questions. When will this happen, the fall of the temple? 3, what will be the sign of your coming? And what will be the end of the age? So I'm focusing on those aspects which were about what is the sign of Jesus' coming. And the very, very first thing Jesus says, right? This is verse 3. Very first thing he warns about. For many will come in my name claiming I am the Messiah and will deceive many. So that's the very first thing to look for. Paul has his experience within 4 years of the crucifixion and ascension of Jesus. Continuing later, he expands on this. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it, for false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. That would include somebody showing up and saying, I am Jesus, and a light brighter than the sun appears to 3 guys on a road and is able to basically show up out of the middle of nowhere, and he though has physical appearance of the scars of his wounds, because Paul says I actually saw the risen body of Jesus Christ, and he was a witness born out of time. Jesus says in verse 25, see, I have told you ahead of time. Verse 26, so if anyone tells you, including Paul, he didn't say that, but I'm adding that in there. There he is out in the wilderness. Do not go out. Here he is in the inner rooms. Do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the easts, that means every point east, is visible even in the wests, plural, every point west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. In other words, the scholars point out when it's pluralized east, pluralized west, it means every point east and west, meaning it's a universal appearance that every eye on earth would see. And clearly the experience that Paul had was three guys, a few guys, nothing universal at all. No mention of it in world history. It would be one of the greatest events of all time. So what happened with Paul is not with the true Jesus. Okay, now I just want to read to you briefly or portions of the article I wrote many years prior to that video. The Angel of the Book of Revelation is the title of the article. It is not always readily remembered that while Jesus is being quoted in the book of Revelation, John is speaking to what is an angel who is transmitting words from Jesus, Revelation 1:1. This would be readily noted as a role of an angel if one was familiar with the Torah. For example, in Jacob's dream, quote, an angel of God speaks to Jacob, and the voice at one point says, I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you made a vow to me, Genesis 3:31-11-12, Friedman. In Abraham's encounter, quote, an angel of Yahweh stops Abraham's hand from sacrificing Isaac and says, now I know you fear God, and you did not withhold your son, your only one, from me. Genesis 22, verses 21-22, Friedman. Angels thus are conduits of another's voice. As Friedman explains from such examples in the Torah, quote, an angel can speak God's words in first person, meaning the pronoun I, or can speak about God in third person. Richard Elliott, Friedman Commentary on the Torah, Harper 2001, at page 63, footnote to Genesis 18, verse 3. We see in Genesis 22, verses 21-22, both in one sentence. In Revelation, this means that the only time John sees Jesus in person is when John is, quote, raptured, taken up into heaven to see Jesus seated at the right hand of God. Until that time, the words of the angel relay Jesus' words, but it is the angel who is present with John on earth. This is in Revelation 1:1. The revelation from Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants what must soon take place, he made it known by sending his angel to his servant John, Revelation 1:1. I'm sure we all gloss over that and we don't pay attention to that's then who's speaking. It's an introduction of the angel who then speaks Jesus' words. This is explained in the InterVarsity Press commentary on the book of Revelation entitled The Vision and the Angel. The commentary helps us by synthesizing this important aspect of Revelation. So I'm quoting from InterVarsity Press. And if you dig into the author of this, he's a top dog commentator and theologian. So he's totally normative Protestant. But he's telling you the truth. You just have to read the text and you're not listening to Jesus speaking physically himself on earth. It's an angel speaking and Jesus speaking through that angel. Let's continue. This is what the commentary, InterVarsity Press commentary says. Another difference is that in the book of Revelation, an angel is introduced as an additional link in the chain. The revelation proceeds from God to Jesus Christ through the angel to one servant in particular named John. The long letter of John comprises the remainder of the book. Who is this angel? And more importantly, who is John? The two are seen together near the end of the book. At the end of John's final vision of the New Jerusalem, that's at chapter 21, verses 9 to chapter 22, verse 5, the angel who, quote, showed him the vision in all its detail, that's Revelation 21:9, verses 9 and 10, and then 22, verse 1, concludes with the solemn assurance, quote, these words are trustworthy and true. That's chapter 22, verse 6. This angel is, quote, one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues, 21, verse 9, compared Revelation 15:1 and 6. Which one we are not told. So we're not told which of the angels this was, of the seven angels. When the angel has finished speaking, another voice adds by way of summary, quote, the Lord, the God of the spirits of the prophets, sent his angel to show his servants the things that must soon take place. Revelation 22:6. Now I would presume that's really John speaking there. An angel identified in a similar way in Revelation chapter 17, verse 1, plays much the same role in the preceding vision of God's judgment on, quote, Babylon the prostitute. That's in Revelation 17, verse 1, all the way through chapter 19, verse 10, concluding with a similar assurance from the angel that, quote, these are the true words of God. Revelation 19, verse 9. So you see repeatedly, even in the intermediate parts, John is repeatedly being told and is mentioning it's an angel who's talking to him. Let's continue with the InterVarsity Press commentary. Here at the beginning of the book, the angel is still unidentified, and he will play no recognizable role in John's early visions. Only in the two later visions will the reader come to know the angel by what he does, for John is revealer and interpreter. Yet so important is the angel in John's experience that John twice falls down to worship him. That's in Revelation 19, verse 10, and Revelation 22, verse 8, and has to be reminded that the angel is merely a, quote, fellow servant with you and with your brothers, the prophets, and all who keep the words of this book. Worship God. Revelation 29, 9, and compare that to Revelation 19, verse 10. So what happens is this angel, John starts worshiping him, and he's saying, no, my friend, I'm not God. You just worship God. So clearly this angel has no connection directly. He's not God. Let's put it that way. If we're reading the book for the second time, InterVarsity Press concludes, we may sense that the closing scenes of John's visionary experience are still fresh in his mind as he begins to write. So you see, this is clearly all, if you want to say, all visions, because he's listening or seeing in a vision the messages coming from the angel initially while he's still on earth, and at the beginning, in parts of the middle and the end, and then only in the middle does he actually see Jesus by being resurrected up into heaven. All right. So I think that makes the point I was trying to bring out. So getting back to the contest, so if you are a person who wants to have a debate over this, yeah, you could go this route, but you see, this isn't going to get you anywhere. It would show that you haven't read the book of Revelation carefully enough. That if you try to make this argument, and it's only going to backfire. Look how bad Mr. Harding looks. That he didn't even, he was clueless that he was actually helping the argument against Paul that I'm making. So I go ahead and make this argument. You'll just help me make the case even stronger. But let's keep it focused, I think, on the passage, because I want to really know the best argument that you can make that this passage in the Son of Man prophecy of Matthew 24 could conceivably, in any universe, be that it doesn't apply to Paul's claim that he had an appearance of Jesus on the road to Damascus 4 years after Jesus had already ascended. All right. Good luck to anybody who wants to try that. I shouldn't say good luck. Do your best job. That's all I want to say. And that's all God can only expect you. But I want to say this. All you who cannot refute it have to now accept what we're saying here. Jesus did not visit Paul back on earth for an appearance, especially for him, the two guys who hear the voice, see the light. Then you have to give up. You have to give Paul up and just follow Jesus. Is that such a hard thing to do? God willing, you'll try that choice is over and above following Paul anymore. All right. God bless. Take care. Ciao. Bye.